More rumblings concerning the future of the college football playoff and also the disparity and growing divide between the SEC and the Big Ten, and let's just say the rest of college football, but most notably the ACC and the Big 12. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, breaking down the game we all love each and every day with you, best discussion, debate, and analysis. We follow the sport unlike anybody else out there. I'm not saying we do it better, but we do it in a unique fashion that you won't find anywhere else. We are going to take from the CBS Sports Dennis Dodd article here. We are not insiders here at the Voice of College Football. We do not break the news. We are not insiders. But we have been on top of this story and realignment in general. And if you go back to the previous live streams and the call-in shows, and if you go to the videos that we posted concerning realignment and like issues involving what happened to the Pac-12 during the offseason leading up to its demise, you'll see that a number of these case scenarios that we have explained have come to fruition. So keep that in mind. Keep it locked in here at the Voice of College Football. So Dennis Dodd, we give him props here because he, of course, is the insider. Negotiations over a 14-team college football playoff format, which would begin in the 2026 season, are trending to featuring more at-large teams amid backlash to bidding from the Big Ten and SEC that would have afforded the conferences a sizable portion of the field and auto first-round buys each year. Sources familiar with the negotiations told CBS Sports. When discussions began 2 weeks ago, sources told CBS Sports that the Big Ten and SEC would seek to receive as many as 4 auto qualifiers each, 8 total, in an expanded playoff. So my initial response to that weeks ago was that the SEC and the Big Ten are already going to get those spots. However, 2 things are in play here, I believe. Number one is that they want the assurance of the spots. There could be a down year in the Big Ten or the SEC. They want the assurance of the spots, first and foremost, because let's go back to what Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti said to ESPN a few weeks ago, and my take on what he had to say when he said, number one, we want as many teams in the college football playoff as possible. Well, every conference commissioner wants that, but when you state it in the manner in which Petitti did, especially considering the power that the Big Ten wields, you know that it means we're going to create a format. We're going to be pushing for a format that gives us more spots. So I said, first and foremost right there, expect the next play, the next move to be a move toward auto qualifiers. And that's exactly what happened. The other point that he said was, well, we also want to play meaningful games in November. We want our best brands to be playing each other. Well, the way that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee has selected teams during the 10-year 4-team playoff, well, if you suppress your records, you're going to get less teams in. So those 2 initiatives, those 2 goals stated by Petitti to ESPN contradicted each other. So I said, for the only reason for that to work, because he just stated 2 great goals, because the great games in November drive up ratings and money and revenue, but that suppresses the records. Therefore, you get less teams in the playoff, and he wants more teams in the playoff. How's he going to accomplish both? Wait for the next shoe to drop, because he is going to show us that the Big Ten is going to take steps toward ensuring both. And that's exactly what this is. Coming out of the first College Football Playoff Management Committee meeting, it seemed as if a 3-3-2-2-1 model was gaining the most traction. That's 3 for the SEC, 3 for the Big Ten, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12, 1 for the group of 5. Those are basement numbers. So that's the floor for each one of those. As part of that model, the Big Ten and the SEC sought to be guaranteed the only 2 buys in the bracket. That's the next point in all of this. Going from the 12-team to the 14-team, which benefits the Big Ten and the SEC in this way. And we talked about this last week, and we talked about it even before it was proposed. And this is it. That going from the 6-6 model to the 5-7 model was a must because of the demise of the Pac-12. But in doing so, we said that the SEC and the Big Ten in particular, and the Big Ten has been more outspoken about this, Petitti has in particular, that they want to gain the upper hand. And the upper hand is they don't want the likes of Arizona, Utah, or whomever comes out of the ACC to get buys just like they get buys. And in the 12-team field, 4 conference champions get buys. But in the 14-team model, only 2 get buys. So we stated that even before it came out. Look for the Big Ten and the SEC to make a power play because they want to be the only 2 buys. They don't want to have their 2 best teams in the country share buys with the likes of a number 14 Arizona team and a number 11 Louisville team. They don't want that. And sure enough, that's what they proposed. Also, while the focus for the 14-team field went to numbers 13 and 14, and rightfully so, we get it that people are going to focus on, well, there's 2 more teams. Well, think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to deliver those spots about 80% of the time, but our focus was on the bye situation, and rightfully so. That's what the SEC and the Big Ten are gunning for. Discussions have pivoted since that proposed format led to a substantial outcry, with fairness being immediately called into question. Quote, what they're basically saying is, we don't trust the selection committee, therefore we basically want to take away their power. End quote, a person familiar with the discussions told CBS Sports. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has long supported a CFP bracket that includes all at-large teams. All of them. The CFP negotiation process has been one of horse trading, with conferences going back and forth with their demands. All parties are seeking a resolution within the next few weeks as the CFP seeks to firm up a deal with ESPN for future media rights. Another great point in all of this. In the past, when there were 5 conferences working together, sure, they were rivals, but they worked together. There was an assumption that we split everything. We give the group of 5 something, but we split the revenue. We're the Power 5, and nobody's better than anyone else. Therefore, they would cut a TV deal and know that they're going to go forward as partners, trusting each other, and they would split the pie. It's totally reversed now. Now, what the conferences want to do, especially the Big Ten and the SEC, because they're wanting the larger piece of the pie, is saying, no. Before we sign a contract to extend the playoff, we want to ensure that we're getting a larger piece of the pie. So in the past, the trust was, we work together, we sign a TV deal, we split the pie. No. Now, we want to guarantee that we're getting a larger piece of the pie, then we'll sign a TV deal. Another source familiar with the process told CBS Sports that the concept of buys and automatic qualifiers has, quote, all went out the window for conference commissioners. That doesn't necessarily mean those elements will not factor into the final decision. It was conveyed that further discussions were needed on the topic. Though the debut of a second expanded CFP bracket is 34 months away, time is of the essence in hashing out the details, mainly as revenue distribution among the conferences needs to be worked out. One such proposal being circulated would include 58% of combined CFP revenue going to the Big Ten and SEC, with the ACC and the Big 12 splitting approximately $31 million. Don't know why that second figure is stated in dollar value and the first one in a percentage. The remaining 10%, so I believe what they wanted to say here was 31% or 32%, if the math makes sense here. The remaining 10% would be divvied up between Notre Dame and the group of 5 conferences, according to Yahoo Sports. And I don't know if that Notre Dame figure is contingent upon them making the playoff. The Power 5 conferences split $400 million equally. Listen to that, equally. About $80 million apiece under the current format, the one that runs through 2023 season. That represents about 78% of the annual CFP revenue. The other 22% goes to the group of 5. Well, that's going to be slashed to 5%, which then decides how that slice is split between the 5 conferences based off of on-field accomplishments. And even though it's fairly insignificant in light of the Big Ten SEC kind of power play takeover, I am curious as to how the group of 5 evaluates their on-field performance to distribute what was 22% among the American Conference, the Sun Belt, the MAC, the Mountain West, and Conference USA. And now that's only going to be 5%. It would be interesting to see because obviously the American Conference has completely outplayed the other ones in the Mountain West as well to see how that is distributed. But that is not the focus, of course, of this article or this power play by the SEC and the Big Ten. The timeline for the 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick to have a format finalized for 2026 and beyond is mid to late March. One source told CBS Sports it's coming. Including the latest round of conference realignment, the Big Ten and SEC would have combined to fill 9 spots, 75%, if a 12-team format was in place for the 2023 season. Over the 10-year history of the CFP, the Big Ten and SEC is constructed in 2024 and beyond, meaning with the 4 teams from the Pac-12 joining the Big Ten and the 2 from the Big 12 going to the SEC, would have combined for an average of 7.6 teams in a 12-team field, according to CBS Sports Research, which does not take a mathematician. We've done that here at the Voice of College Football. So we're asked all the time here at the Voice of College Football over the last few weeks, will the SEC and the Big Ten break away from the rest of college football? Okay, the answer is maybe, of course. But before we get to that, and we will in later videos, we've already talked about it. We've already laid out models and will in the future. We looked at one with the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12 surviving in a large format. We will look at the SEC and the Big Ten breaking off and what that could look like as well. But sticking to what this is indicating and where we take our clues would be in this negotiation for the 58%. So think about it this way. This is one of 2 negotiating tactics by the Big Ten and the SEC in my eyes. And one would be either they are saying, give us what we are demanding, the 58%, or we're gone. And whether they're stating that up front or just thinking that and planning for that scenario to say, hey, we've got the brands, we're delivering the eyeballs, we get more money, or we're out of here, or we will take off and do our own thing. Or maybe they're thinking we're going to do our own thing anyway. We might as well just make more money while we're still connected to the Big 12, the ACC, and the rest of the conferences. We have run the figures of a 12-team model and a 14-team model and what that would have looked like during the playoff era of the last 10 years. Check out the videos. We're going to leave as many down below in the comment section as we can possibly fit. We have so much more to say about this. There is so much more to dive into. The Notre Dame angle, the Group of 5 angle. Again, who's going to survive from the Big 12 and the ACC? Would it just be the Big 10 and the SEC? Who are they going to play out of conference? There are so many different angles to this. This is real. These things are being talked about. This is real. Is it going to come to fruition? That's under negotiation. Again, are the Big 10 and the SEC planning to move on regardless? And they might as well just say, we're going to make more money anyway, so we might as well make it before we break off. Or this is our last stand to say, we want college football to remain pretty much what it is, but we need to make more money because our brands are delivering. What I truly don't like about all this, among other things, would be that the SEC and the Big Ten are making a power play to say, you know what, you're going to pay us for brand value, even before we've proven in any given year that we are the best brands, that we are the best on the field. We are all expecting the Big Ten and the SEC. It's obvious that they are going to be the best, but they have yet to prove it on the field. But before they prove it on the field, they want to be paid like the best because of the eyeballs that they attract. Your comments below right here at the Voice of College Football. Please like, please subscribe, keep it locked in here. And we are set for a huge March here at the Voice of College Football, believe me, and then on into the rest of the offseason and into the summer. Hang on tight. It's going to be a great ride right here at the Voice of College Football.